other day, I found myself scrolling on social media when I really needed to work on a project. It was just so tempting to watch that funny meme, and I am absolutely sure that I'm not the only one, and you guys have found yourself in a similar position where you know that there is something very important that you have to do, but you trick yourself into believing that watching this one reel or this one 5-minute video is going to change your life or is going to make your day or is really funny that you have to share it with tens of your friends. So today, let's talk about why this happens and how we can train our brains to act in a way that is more in line with our goals. By the way, if you're new here, I'm Anudeep and I work as a software engineer by the day, and I make YouTube videos in my free time on topics relating to self-improvement, productivity, tech, and entrepreneurial mindset. In this video, we are going to go over some scientific evidence-based research papers on why we procrastinate and some practical tips which have me cure this mindset. I love doing these in-depth evidence-based research videos, and I'll be actually doing a lot more in the future. So if any of these things sound interesting, please consider subscribing. As always, it means a lot. Enough of the plug, let's get started. Simply put, delayed gratification is resisting the small, immediate desire like binge watching our favorite TV show or eating that sugary snack so that you can enjoy a much bigger reward further down the line, maybe in some weeks or months or years or whatever, like better health, higher productivity, financial stability, all those things. And the funny thing is that we often think that it is about willpower, but it is also about setting the right environment and lifestyle design and inculcating that mindset that enables us to feel that all these gains that are distant in the future, they are real gains, so that it is easier for us to resist these temptations and go towards our goals, march towards our goals, and not be caught up in these distractions. But the problem is that the modern world is full of stuff that is about this instant dopamine hit, which generally takes us away from our dreams. So the main point is that if we can basically resist these things, if we can keep on marching towards our goals and not give in to these small temptations every now and then, it will result in a general improvement in all areas of your life. Everything from your relationships, your career, personal life, professional life, everything will see a bump. And even in my personal life, I felt that whenever I have delayed gratification, it has always resulted in something more meaningful and beautiful further down the line. But before moving forward, let's understand the science of why we procrastinate and why we give into these instant dopamine hits and why it is that we behave in this way. So, this research paper shows how our brains produce dopamine, that's a chemical, when we experience an unexpected reward or particularly satisfying. You see, our brain craves novelty, meaning it will fire a bunch of neurons every time it experiences something new. For example, a new sight, a new smell, a new taste, or a new feeling, whatever it is. But the problem is, when we experience this novelty every second, the amount of dopamine in our head is just too much. And this surge of dopamine essentially trains our brains into thinking that this hit is good, and our brains begin to seek this hit again and again, creating a feedback loop that values short-term pleasures over long-term gains. And what is also important to understand is that dopamine is not always about pleasure. It's also about motivation and learning. You see, whenever we do something that triggers this mechanism, this reward pathway, like binge watching our favorite show or mindlessly and endlessly scrolling on social media, we are reinforcing this idea inside our brains that dopamine and this instant hit is rewarding as well as easy. The payoff or the good feeling of doing something more challenging, like working on your new assignment or that new project, or all of these things are still there, but it is so far away, distant in the future, and they feel less certain, and that is why it is so difficult to push past this instant gratification, this allure of a quick fix. Interestingly, another key insight from this research paper shows that we discount future rewards, treating them as less valuable and less important simply because they are distant away in the future. The fancy term used for this in the paper is called delay discounting, but simply put, what our brains think is that a reward today might feel more tangible and more enjoyable and more important rather than the reward that is next month, even though this future reward is objectively larger and is more beneficial to you. It really is like the brain tricks itself to, go for this instant hit. This effect makes it way easy for the brain to just put off things, since it says the big payoff is in the next week or the next month and is not even certain, and I can get a lot of pleasure out of this easy instant thing that is right in front of me, even though this thing from which I am getting this instant reward is against the things that I have to do to get to my end goal, whatever that goal might be. Now, the silver lining all of this is that we can actually rewire our brains. We can actually train them to pursue things that are harder, to pursue things that are far away in the future, maybe in a week, in a month, or in a year. And when we repeatedly do that, our brain actually rewires itself into thinking that doing the harder thing, doing the thing that does not feel good in the moment but is objectively good for me, is the way to go. That is why even the small acts of self-discipline and self-restraint, like resisting to buy that particular thing, or turning off Netflix for just one night, all of these things count up. Eventually our brains will start to see and desire payoff waiting down the line. And lastly, I want to bring your attention to a well-known study called the Marshmallow Effect, something that you might have also come across. And this is actually a famous series of experiments conducted in the 1960s, wherein small children were given a marshmallow and they were told that you could either eat this up in 15 minutes or at the end of 15 minutes you'll get a second marshmallow. So some children waited and some didn't. And the follow-up study on the same children, when they grew up to be adults and they were in colleges, they were building their own lives, they were building their careers, they were having relationships. So when a follow-up study was done on them, it was found that the people who waited for the second marshmallow had better academic performance. They were performing better professionally. They had lower divorce rates. They were having better personal relationships as well. And a not obvious thing to point out here is that it was not only about willpower. Factors like child's environment, about how stable he feels, how confident and safe he feels, and how much he has confidence and faith in that he will be able to achieve something in the future. That actually was one of the major factors in contributing to the end result of the child eating that marshmallow or not. If he was very certain in his beliefs that he would at the end of 15 minutes get a second marshmallow, he waited for it. But if its home was not stable, if its family members were always fighting, or if he always had this sense of instability and a sense of uncertainty around, they ate the marshmallow because they were not certain and sure that they would get the marshmallow at the end of 15 minutes. So from these studies, the bottom line is that there is a huge payoff in waiting for something that is very boring currently but has huge potential in the long term, rather than giving away our willpower and giving away to this instant gratification, this instant source of dopamine that is waiting for us. And unfortunately in this modern world, things like these are way too many. But if we can understand why we behave the way we do, we can actually start to rewire our brain and restructure our behaviors so that it is easier for us to achieve our goals, easier for us to live the life that we want to live, not what this world wants us to live, through these instant dopamine producing machines flashed onto us. So now that we know that instant gratification is harmful to us, I want to actually quickly go over some of the things that I have found useful in tackling this, because I don't want to be the person who just does commentary and goes away. I believe in giving out solutions because of the way that I've been brought up, because of the way that I've studied. I think that I am much more solution oriented. So I would leave you guys with a couple of tips that have helped me beat my urges, and those have genuinely changed my life. So number one, when I'm feeling low or when I want to procrastinate, I just focus on taking one small action. It may be just opening up my notebook or opening up my code editor and writing just the first sentence or the first line of code. And what all of this does is I have actually broken through the initial resistance, and once I am actually in the mode, I forget there's a Twitter account to check or a YouTube to check, or if I have to call my mom and stuff. I am actually in the zone and I'm focusing on the thing that needs my focus at that particular point of time. Secondly, this is something that I've mentioned in so many of my past videos and I'm a huge fan of, that is time blocking. So if something is on my calendar, I somehow force myself to get started on the task. Now I may procrastinate for 2 to 5 minutes. I can go out and fill that water bottle for 2 consecutive times. I can make coffee for the 3rd time, and then once I'm done through all that, because I know that there's a 3-hour calendar block waiting for me, I sort of force myself to just sit down and start working. And what that does is, For the first few minutes, I can, feel the urge to just check my phone again. But I have this at the back of my head that I'll be cheating on myself if I, check my phone and not worked on the task. So what ends up happening is that at the end of 10, 15, 20 minutes, I'm fully engrossed in the task at hand. I am in my full focus zone and the procrastination goes away. So if, for example, say I have blocked some time to work on filming this YouTube video from 3 to 6 p.m. From 3 to 3:10 to 3:15, maybe I'm procrastinating, but because I know that there's an ongoing block on my calendar, I will not, waste an hour watching my favorite Netflix show or slouch on the couch, mindlessly watching reels and stuff. And which nicely brings us to the last point, which is minimizing distractions. And that is that when I am in my deep work focus zones, I actually, sort of turn off this notification, throw my phone away. Not literally, but I put that in D&D or I put that in some other room. And that is very cliche, that is very trivial, but it is surprisingly very helpful and it works wonders for me, as it has done for so many people on the internet, so many people that I know. So these are some of the things that I try, and I would urge you all to try all these things and see how it works. Alright guys, I hope you found value in this video. I'll be doing a separate in-depth video that walks through more in-depth research-backed strategies to build up delayed gratification for those of you who want to dive deeper. So stay tuned and I will see you in the next one. Peace.